And we're live. Welcome to the Metal Lab, folks. It's Monday, 9 p.m. Okay, it's a little after 9 p.m. We're running a little late, sorry.
8.
Yep. It's been a busy weekend on the road to Windsor, and I know I'm bushed. How about you guys?
I didn't go on Sunday.
Oh, must be we have Mike with us, and of course Jordan. Of course Jordan, right?
It's a trooper.
So let's get a quick start today. Today we're going to be talking sealed in the Trinity War environment because a lot of figures, I'm pretty sure almost all of them, got leaked to or got revealed on HC Realms. So we have a good idea what a lot of the characters do. So we're going to go through each of the rarities and talk about where they stand in sealed. Then we're going to talk about our experiences on the road to Windsor this past weekend. Mine as a judge at the Comic Warehouse, these guys as players at the Comic Warehouse, and myself as a player at Whitby, which, spoiler alert, was quite embarrassing. But first, we're going to talk about the big reveal from WizKids today, which happened to be the resources. We actually have clear pictures now, and I can read them of the new resources. The Pandora's box and Rock of Eternity. Wow, I swear I'm going to get into gear, guys. Just give me a second here, okay? This is the browser I got. I'm going to share that, and I'm going to close the crappy window and boring window that I'm in to discuss Pandora's box.
Oh, box first.
Box first, because that's what I have open first.
Okay.
All right. So I'm just going to go over what it does. Pandora's box costs 12 points. At least one and up to 7 distinct sins may be attached to this resource and cost 4 points each. As part of the setup, at the beginning of the game, you choose one of 3 paths: red, blue, or green. Each have their cute little names, but let's get into that later. Turn the dial to the starting line of the chosen color, and then use the click numbers of that color this game. The sinners. When a friendly character has a sin on its card, it is called a sinner, and it is assigned Pandora's box. Once per turn, you may give a character a power action and assign it a sin from this resource by placing it onto the character's card. When you do, turn this dial to the click number equal to the number of sins on all sinners' cards. A sinner may not have more than 1 sin on his card from this resource unless there are 3 or more friendly sinners on the map. They put the number 7 at the end there. If a sinner is KO'd, all sins on its card are removed from the game and scored at 4 points each. If there are no sinners on your force and no sins attached to this resource, Pandora's box is removed from the game and scored at 12 points. Once during your turn, you may roll a d6 that can't be re-rolled. If you do, sinners can use the power in the corresponding slot until your next turn. During your turn, if all 7 sins were assigned this game, all sinners have at least 1 action token, and there are at least 3 sinners on the map, you may turn the dial to click number 9 and do not click it again this game. And then, of course, you have 2 numbers on the click number 9. The number 1, sinners modify their combat values by +1. Sinners can use improved movement, ignore elevated. I hope that's hindering. I'm a little colorblind. Mm-hmm. And breakthrough blocking, as well as improved targeting, ignore elevated, hindering, and breakthrough blocking, and modify their speed and range values by +2. And then
hold on, would that be a total just based on that power, +3 to speed and +3 to range?
Yes, absolutely, because you get a +1 to all your combat values, period, and then you get the ability to use those improved targeting and improved movement and modify your speed and range values by +2. So that's like a separate clause on top of the modify by +1.
Which is always really nice.
Yeah.
That's
If you ever get there, it's awesome.
Yeah, if a character already has like a 6 movement charge or a 6 movement running shot, that's now a 9 movement running shot. That's kind of huge with what could already be an 8 range, 10 range with the sniper, 12 range now. That's a swing. That's a swing and a half.
Yeah. But it's low.
It's not easy to get to that click.
No.
As well, there's a number 2, because at the beginning of the turn you roll off, and you'll either be getting the number 1, which will be a roll of 1, 2, or 3, or the number 2, which is the Gateway to Earth 3. Sinners modify their combat values by +1. Sinners can use the Mystics team ability. Once per game, choose another DC team ability, and sinners can use that team ability when they can use this power. So it doesn't necessarily say it can't be uncopyable. It just says choose a power or choose a team ability, and you can use it. Of course, CSA probably comes to mind on those as the uncopyable, as well as Outsiders and Quintessence for those ones that you can't normally get.
I was going to say that was the first one I was thinking about. Quintessence, Quintessence, Quintessence.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it already gives you the Mystics to take away that even the requirement of that option. So, yeah, it's a pretty cool resource as a whole. It takes a lot of work to move this thing. You got to move it. It takes at least 7 turns to get all of them down. There's no acceleration from this, a la like a split lip or something with the Book of Skulls.
Well, there is.
The wording is also pretty down.
The outsider, though, too, to bring it in. So instead of 40, you can pay 28 points, like for a full set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, unlike the wording in this, I feel like this one's kind of, I don't want to say foolproof because they'll probably release a character that reverses this wording, but based on the way the game's progressing word-wise, this is kind of like a foolproof. There is no like way to just skip this resource in a way that it shouldn't be able to move like that. Like Split Lip in the Book of Skulls just being like bam, 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 drop the whole Book of Skulls. Like everything's now quartered the time.
Right, yeah, and like when I say Split Lip in the Book of Skulls, generally when you have the Book of Skulls out and Split Lip is out, without Split Lip, you're taking power actions to pick up the hammer, right? And you're taking another power action to drop another hammer, and then a power action to pick it up. Where Split Lip says, okay, you get a free action to pick up the hammer that got dropped for free, and then somebody can take a power action, and now that second hammer that dropped is picked up for free. So that's kind of where I'm talking about with acceleration, whereas this, the only real acceleration comes from bringing the outsider who makes it the base cost free effectively, but at the same time you're still paying 58 points for the outsider, which isn't a bad price for, you know, a character who can take a character you just sent as, on an alpha strike out of danger.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that seems like something that would work way more stylistically with the Rock of Eternity, because that powers up your one-man army. You send your one-man army out. He punches it up, powers up the dial. You switch it out, and he's still alive.
Yeah. So it's a little weird. It's different, and because it's limited to definitely once per turn, you have to take 7 turns to get it out. You have to have at least 3 characters on your team if you're going to get all 7 sins out, and you got to keep them alive in order to get to that final click. So this takes a lot more work than any other resource to kind of hit that peak point.
I don't know. You know, I look at this. I look at the outsider, for instance, in relation to this, and he seems more like a tight swarm replacement guy, where, you know, he may be sitting back because you brought him in for that purpose, or to make the, you know, to make the resource 12 points cheaper, and then you're just biding your time until you can switch him out. But if you have a tight swarm, and he's in the back and another character is getting attacked, he can just switch with them and then mastermind the damage out to, for instance, a good soak tank over to your left. I don't know. I think it's a little more versatile than just using it for a BAMF.
Yeah, there's funky things. This is just going to take a lot more work than, say, the Book of Skulls to drop hammers.
Yeah. Well, it's the replacement, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, because the Book of Skulls will be probably leaving in the next set of what's the word I'm looking for? Cut.
Golden Age. Cut.
Yeah. All right. So next up we have, as we were talking about, the Rock of Eternity, which, as an I don't say uninterested, but rather not a fan of the Shazam, not a regular reader of Shazam comics. There's the word I'm looking for.
Actually, hold up. Before we just switch over to the resources, Jason, point out to all the people watching, it doesn't actually say on Pandora's box that we can use the relics they're assigned, so questions need to be asked.
Yeah, and
because that's a lot of points if we can't use the sins that are attached.
Yeah, because you're paying points for them to do what exactly? Wait, we got a question on Pandora's box. My question is 1,000K. No, okay. Yeah, okay. No, I just double-checked the WizKids rules. I don't think anybody's asked that question yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll take a look. I mean, the fact that it says the word assign is an important element to it.
Mm-hmm.
So Well,
but usually when they have the wording, and like I want to just like, because the way that they make this game is it's intention. So I mean, it might get errata to be like you actually do get to use it, but every other resource when you're giving a relic or you pick up a relic, it even says on the relic card when you pick this when you roll the dice, it can't be re-rolled, and you get the number and you place it on the character. It says you get the effects of like what's on this card.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying.
It even says it on the Rock of Eternity, I believe, where you place sins down, and it will say, like, you get the effects of whatever it is per turn, or you get to select one per turn based on one of its powers, and it actually says you get to use the sins powers.
Maybe I'm not getting it in the same way that you guys are, because, I mean, you're assigning the sin. I'm looking at one of the sins right now. I'm looking at Envy. And it says on this character can use energy shield, deflection, etc., etc., etc. Because it would be redundant if it said it on the resource as well.
It's but when it's on the resource, it's not a relic unless specified on the resource, like in the Book of Skulls specify where this is a relic being assigned to the character. Use these effects.
Okay, so
or the Mandarin rings.
Is the difference between?
Does the same thing too. It says specifically use it as though it's a relic.
And Pandora's box does not say to use the powers even once. Again, so while Pandora's box, as we were saying before, seems like at first glance, the potential more powerful resource, but if that may be the case, you're paying a lot of points.
Yeah, you're paying a lot more than you are for the Rock of Eternity too, which we'll move on to right now, and send that question over to the WizKids question forum. So, Rock of Eternity. This one, for Force Construction, costs 14 points. At least 1 and up to 7 distinct sins may be included on your force at a cost of 2 points each. So less points per sin, more going in with the resource. This one, when you build your force, the Rock of Eternity is assigned a character on your force with a point value of 50 or more. The assigned character is called your champion. Your champion can use the standard powers indicated on the Shazam dial, which is when it is assigned the same number of tokens indicated next to the slot. So you'll see, I'll see if I can get a decent zoom on this here. All right. Oh, yeah, just click all over. Okay, so right here, you'll see 0, 1, and 2. So 0 token, 1 token, 2 tokens, and you'll look at the Shazam dial, which is this one which has powers on it. And you'll have things like, when you have 0 tokens, you can use TK. I believe this is the Cunning dial. If you have 1 token, Quake, and if you have 2 tokens, Poison. And it seems if you look at the powers themselves, they're actually very well laid out. The powers that are on when you have two tokens are very passive powers. Like if you go in order of the green dial, we'll go with, you have Poison, Stealth, Enhancement, Energy Shield, Outwit. Is it enhancement again? And shape change. So all of these are very either defensive or passive powers. Probability control, perplex, combat reflexes, empower, where you don't actually have to physically do anything in some cases, or it's just a free action to use it.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because the first thing I checked when I found out it's based on how many action tokens, it's let's see if double action token slot are powers you have to power action to use. Let's see how often they messed up.
Yep.
But no, I've actually did it pretty well. It's all passive abilities.
Yeah, and they really nailed it. And the secondary slot, in some they seem to be some of the more useful powers, but in some cases defensive powers as well. Like the last click on the green is an impervious. Actually, it's the last click on both of them. But then there's like barrier, which is pretty defensive. You got phasing for getting the heck out of there, but psychic blast on some. So it kind of varies throughout in the top 2. Where the powers are a lot more active.
That's super senses on the other one.
Super senses. Where? Yeah, there it is. Yeah, right here on the blue dial. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, the other ones on the other dial. Those are flurry, correct?
Yeah.
Nice. You know what? I not going back right to the utility belt, but I like flurry.
Who doesn't? Flurry's a great power.
Oh my god. Sorry, I just want to call this out. Flurry punching walls and then Kyle Rayner? Oh my god, Flurry's amazing.
You're jumping ahead of the show. We're going to talk about that later.
No, I was just saying Flurry because I was like, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. All right. So next up, carrying on, your champion can use standard powers from the Shazam dial. When a special power or an attached sin is showing on either the Shazam or sin dial, your champion may use its effect. So that's what you're talking about with the specific wording that says use the effect of sins, which seems to be lacking in Pandora's box and will probably either be errated or clarified somewhere.
I feel like that's like an intention kind of thing. Like, there's no way they intend us to spend that many points on hopefully getting to click 9.
Yeah. And then setup, you choose one or, like we were talking about, one or two directions you can go with the dial. So you'll see there's some KO click split between them. I found my mouse there. So, yeah, that's right. Okay. So you'll see there's 7 red clicks and 7 blue clicks on this one as opposed to more paths. One, of course, the cunning, one the mighty. So one's a little bit more aggressive, where one's a little bit more finessey, if you'll say to say the least. I believe.
I thought of it as Pandora's box. I looked at it. The 3 categories were like offense, defense, support. Yeah. This one's more like, as you said, finesse and brute force.
Punch the wall. And instead of now, here's another important thing. Instead of placing objects, place up to 3 sins on the map. Each sin must be placed at least 5 squares away from each other, any starting area, and in its own row and column. So there's a little bit of work to place those. You can't just kind of lump them all in a group and deal with them later. Must be at least 5 squares away from each other, any starting area in its own, and the remaining sins are added to your sideline. Sin dial begins the game on click 1. The sin dial can't turn to a click lower than click 1 or higher than click 20. And that would be the sin dial, which is this mamma jamma right here, which shows some colors and some numbers.
Like most Heroclix dials, numbers and a few colors.
Yeah, but it's like it's numbers and circles kind of as a special power, and colors and squares with no like stat numbers per se.
Oh, it's a different kind of dial.
Yeah. Imprisoning the sins. At the beginning of your turn, if your champion doesn't have 2 action tokens, you may attach a sin from your sideline to this resource. Give the champion a free action when it occupies a square with a sin placed by you, and attach it to this resource. Each time you attach a sin, turn the Shazam dial to the click number equal to the number of attached sins. So basically, you're kind of where the Book of Skulls is handing things out. In this case, you're collecting them. And it doesn't, like, it takes some work to get to the ones on the board to use a free action. And as long as you don't have 2 action tokens, you're taking from your sideline and moving it. Still, at best I can see 1, 2, 4 turns to get all the sins on the resource, from what I'm seeing.
Oh, okay, yeah, maybe all of the resources. But I was like, the way that they allow you to put up to 3 on the map, you play 2 TKers, you can get 3 in 1 turn.
Yep.
You move out, free action pick up, TK1 to the second, TK2 to the third.
Yep.
I mean, unless it's going to go based on the ruling that you can't technically pick up 2 because it's the same free action in the same turn, but that doesn't sound like that's a thing.
It doesn't, because it sounds like this is going to be that give the champion free action coming from the resource. Could be, but I'm not going to jump on that one. It's going to be another question that's going to have to get clarified, I think.
But yeah, I assume that's like, you can pick all of those up in a turn with planning.
Yep, and sidestep.
Sidestep, they have to be different rows and all have to be 5 apart, so it's like...
Yeah, but
that's replacement.
Yeah. I think that's exactly why they said that.
That's just replacement.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can have them 5, 6, and 7 squares away from your starting area, just 5, 5, and like 5. And you just go bam, bam, bam.
Okay. And we have unlock the power of Shazam. At the beginning of your turn, when your champion has no action tokens, you may roll 2d6 that can be rerolled and add the current number of the Shazam dial. If the result is 16 or more, give your champion a double power action, attach any unattached sins to this resource, and turn the Shazam dial to click number 9. So this thing could already get the resources by the time you have the 4th on it, if you have a clear action, or if you have a clear base and high.
Oh, so if you pick up all 3 are on the map and do the... Is it a power action to place 1 from your sideline?
It just says do it once per turn, I think. At the beginning.
Okay.
And as
So
long as you don't have
theoretic-
two actions.
Sorry, I didn't. So theoretically, you could Shazam turn 1 because you need 4 and then a crit hit to make 16.
Yeah, if you can pull that off, you might be able to do it by turn 1, and that's gonna be a double power action to do it. But darn.
I'm not complaining about a turn 1 Shazam.
Exactly. Yeah, and then you if you roll that 16, you roll that click number 9, which only shows a number 1, and we'll get to that in a second. Count up your sins. Each time more than one or more action tokens are placed on an opposing character, you may turn the sin dial once clockwise. Each time one or more action tokens are placed on your champion, turn the sin dial once counterclockwise. So the sin dial is going to kind of tick forward, tick backwards, based on how your opponent is moving and how your champion is moving.
It says may, so potentially you could always just click it forward.
Yep, absolutely. And then now there's a series of numbers and colors on that. I want to see what the sin dial says on it with regards to... Okay, so the sin dial is just basically says the sin dial. What do you get from the sin dial? I don't remember. Each sin imprisoning the sins beginning of turn when it's blah 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 blah. I've done and messed this up. Each time one or more Okay, so I don't know what the colors on the sin dial mean.
They correspond with the color of the sin.
They correspond with the colors of the sins, Amber just told me. Wow. It's like the gauntlet in that way where you only get the gems that are really showing.
Okay.
Yeah. That makes a lot more sense. Thank you, Amber.
And that's why the later powers, giving in to the sin, growing temptation, evil seduction, ultimate transgressor, is you allowing to pick at will which sin, in addition to whatever sin you're using with
Now, this is where things are going to get tricky with this dial, is because your opponent is now going to look at you and go, maybe I don't want your sins growing so much. And then you're going to see that need for free actions showing up once again. Because this isn't stopping them in any way, shape, or form.
Well, it's funny. You have to click back, but you can click forward.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wait, you have to click back? No, I thought you could. You can click either way.
Each time one or more action tokens are placed on your champion, turn the sin dial once counterclockwise.
Yeah. So when you do it
clockwise
if your opponent does it, you have to, or you don't have to. So
fair enough. You could potentially always just stay on the click you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's possible.
And it's once you're adding action tokens, which is when your action resolves, I believe. So whatever you have showing, you'll get the bonus from. So going into the powers and the numbers here, let me just see if I can. There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we got the power personified, which is the number 1 that'll show up on the Shazam dial. Your champion can use Impervious, Probability Control, Pulse Wave, Running Shot, Mystic Steam ability, has Flight and Indomitable. Your champion has a range value of 8, and if its printed value is less, it basically becomes Shazam. Okay. 2, which will show up on the Sin dial. Sorry?
Even though Captain Thunder has no range.
That's true. Yes. So we had number 2.
What? Okay. Sorry, go on.
Giving into Sin. Give your champion a free action to turn the Sin dial 3 clicks counterclockwise. When you do, choose one attached Sin, and your champion can use this effect until your next turn, even if this power is lost. So you can actually, if you're in a pinch and you see a Sin that you need right now, you can kind of bump it backwards at the expense of possibly either A, landing on the Sin that you want, and B, getting the bonus of choosing another Sin on top of that. Then you have 3, the Growing Temptation. Your champion may immediately choose one attached Sin and use its effect until the Sin dial is clicked again. So when 3 shows up, I think you're looking a little later in the dial. We're looking at, it shows up on click 17, 18, and 19? No, 17 and 18. So there's only 2 clicks that actually have that one. Then you move on to 4, which shows up at click 19. Your champion may immediately choose 2 attached Sins and use both of their effects until the Sin dial is clicked again. And there are no other Sins colors showing on that one, but I believe the number 2 is also, it looks like the number 2 is also on that click. And then
it is.
Yeah. and then you have click number.
I'm looking at the units section right now. Actually, it's all laid out there.
Yeah.
So easier to look at.
And click 20 has us with the number 5, the Ultimate Transgressor. Your champion uses the effects of all attached sins until the sin dial is clicked again, which will be after you've done and used every single one of them. Now, if you're familiar with the sins, a lot of them are more passive abilities in many cases, with the exception of Gluttony, who's got that nice bonus to not doing anything. Not Gluttony, sorry, Sloth. But as a whole, being able to use the effects of all of them is really, really neat. And as a whole, these are going to be one of those ones that we might not be able to see the potential of them right off of the bat. This could be one of those things where it's like they don't seem that great right now, but once you get them on the board and start to use things and start to see how the dials move and what pace they're moving at, you might get a change of heart eventually or possibly.
The only problem I have with this, past resources, like the book, like Pandora's box, is very similar to the Infinity, or like the Book of Skulls, and this is like the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
The Book of Skulls, though, was very easy to turn. You hit someone when you already had +2 attack, turn the dial. The Infinity Gauntlet was make an action. Like, well, I can't remember because I didn't actually play during that one period of time when that resource came out. So it was just make an action, correct?
Yeah, the Gauntlet was make an action, roll the die, see how far it goes.
Yeah. Belt always just gave you stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is when you're assigned an action token. So unless you know a way to like just start in-capping your own dude time after time after time, it's going to take like 17 turns to get to number 3.
Oh, it's just slow.
Like, that just sounds outrageous because in 6 turns, I remember spinning books in circles.
Yeah, but I think you might have this backwards because adding tokens to yours turns it backwards.
Oh!
Opponent moving moves it forwards, which is the clockwise, right? Counterclockwise being backwards. So when your opponent moves, it moves faster. So if you're playing, like, let's say, ideally the Rocket Fraternity being assigned to one character is more likely to be on a tentpole team, and you're outnumbered. If your opponent's moving 3 or 4 characters at a time, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you take one action and you move a backwards one. Kind of like the.
Don't characters take damage counterclockwise and then heal up clockwise?
No, you spin the dial like the dial itself spins clockwise.
Oh, okay. I was thinking the top part. Sorry, you're right. Yeah.
So.
So I mean that's the benefit right there, right? It's a temple versus a swarm, or an Omei versus a swarm, right?
Yeah.
But if you have temple and temple, it's
not gonna move at all.
But even taking a 300-point game, it's when you're now knowing. Say you're playing a 4-figure team or something.
Yeah.
You have a carry. That's 1 token.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep my team very close and keep my actions minimal, just based on knowing that every action is getting you stronger. So,
right.
I mean, you have your own control against your opponent. Like, that's also something I don't like. Your opponent having control over your resource.
And that was going to be one of those things I mentioned is there isn't a specific character, per se, that